Hey, welcome to another episode of Ask Samir. Today I'm going to be answering a question that has come in from Vineet. Vineet wants to know, Samir, I am on a student visa right now and I have just taken admission for another semester. However, I do not want to continue on a student visa. Do I have the option of getting an H-1B? And if that's not an option, can I apply for an L-1 visa? I have a 10% stake in a business. Also, if I can apply for the L-1 visa, what is the chance that I'll get approved, and what are the requirements in order to get an L-1 visa? Thank you for your question, Vineet, and I will answer that right after this. Hi, I'm Samir Kumar, and I'm an immigration lawyer. During these videos, I answer the questions you ask, and I answer the questions you should ask. Now, before we get started, here's something important you need to know. The information in these videos is not legal advice. Also, watching these videos does not make me your lawyer, and it does not make you my client. I recommend that you speak to a licensed immigration attorney about your case before doing anything. If you want to speak to me, no problem. I'll tell you how to do that in just a few minutes. All right, let's get started. Hey, welcome back to Ask Samir. Today I'm answering a question that has come in from Vineet, and Vineet is on a student visa right now. He has signed up for another semester and he doesn't want to continue his education. Now, one thing I didn't mention is that he is doing his master's degree, so that means he already has his bachelor's degree, and he's saying, should I go with an H-1B visa? And if I don't want to go with that, can I go for an L-1 visa? I have a 10% stake in a business. So first of all, Vineet, thank you for your question. So this is a multi-part question. I'm going to do my best to answer this. So the first thing that I did mention was, Vineet, that if you do want to go for an H-1B visa, you do have to have a bachelor's degree, or what I should say is the equivalent of a U.S. bachelor's degree. That means a 4 years of education, or the equivalent of 4 years of education in an institute of higher learning here in the United States. But for the sake of this question, I'm going to assume that you have that. So now what you're looking at is, if you're going to want to go on an H-1B visa, you have to make sure that you have a company sponsor, that you have to make sure that the position requires at least a bachelor's degree, and of course there are quota issues that you need to make sure you meet. Meaning that the quota does get used up oftentimes, and you have to make sure that you're filing at a time where you can be counted in that quota. Okay, now I haven't gotten to the quota in too much detail, but it does exist, so you want to make sure that. But I think the bigger question here, it seems that you're asking, is more about the L-1 visa, because you have a 10% stake in a business. And it appears, I'm going to assume that this business that you have a 10% stake in is in the United States. So for the L-1 visa, there's really two approaches to it. The first one is what's called an intra-company transferee, and that applies actually in both situations, but it's basically saying that there is another company that you have in a foreign country, and they have a subsidiary here in the United States, and you must have been working for that company at least 1 year out of the past 3 in a managerial or executive capacity. Okay, and if you Google requirements for an L-1 visa, you can check that out. That's one aspect to it. The other one is you can have specialized knowledge that will get you from one company in the foreign country to the subsidiary here in the United States. So if you have that specialized knowledge, that's another way that you can come here. So the simple answer is, for one aspect of the L-1 visa, you can come here as a manager or an executive or someone with specialized knowledge, so long as you were working for that company for at least 1 out of the past 3 years in that capacity. Now, my concern here, Vineet, is that you are a student. I don't know how many years you've been studying, but if it's been over 3 years that you've been studying, then you can't really fulfill the L-1 visa requirement under that capacity, because you haven't been working 1 out of the past 3 years for that company. Now, assuming that's not the case, there's also one other way to do this. You can apply for a new L-1 visa. Now, this is something, by the way, L-1 visa across the board is something that you definitely want to talk to an immigration attorney about in detail, because it is not this simple application that you just file and you get. There is a lot of paperwork that goes into this. And what I'm about to talk about probably requires even more paperwork than the first situation I was talking about. And that is if you're going to be starting a new company on an L-1. That means you have a foreign company and you are going to be starting a US subsidiary, and it's a brand spanking new business, and you want to get an L1A visa to start it. Or I'm sorry, I should say an L1 visa to start it. That means you're going to be coming here, you're going to be starting the company, you might be hiring employees, you're going to be getting office space or business space for whatever the product or service is, and you're going to be growing this business. If that's what you're looking to do, it may be a possibility, but that's a situation where you want to speak to an attorney in detail, because there are a lot of requirements that are going to be scrutinized to make sure that, number one, that you get the visa, and number two, that the government is willing to renew the visa, that you're not just filing the paperwork to get the L1 visa and then say, hey, you know what, screw the company, I'm not really going to run it, I'm not really going to build it, which will put you in a precarious situation because you won't get the renewal. And then, of course, you won't have the benefits of being able to file for a green card, which we'll talk about in another episode. So the fact that you're a 10% stakeholder in a business, I would have to have a lot more detail to tell you if you can file for an L1A. It's not just ownership. You have to be in the managerial or executive capacity or someone with specialized knowledge, which you may be, but I don't know because you didn't include that in the question. So that's something that we definitely have to talk about in more detail. All right. So I hope that helps, Vineet. Thank you so much for your question, and thank you for checking out this episode of Ask Samir. All right. Here's what you should do now. Speak to a licensed immigration lawyer about your case. If you'd like to speak with me, head over to kumarlaw.com and click on the button that says Talk to Samir. You and I will hop on the phone and you can ask me anything you want. No question is off limits. Thanks for checking out this episode of Ask Samir. For more videos or to ask me a question, head over to kumarlaw.com.